Hey, welcome back to Inside the Huddle. Joining us in studio, Michigan assistant hockey coach Billy Muckalt after the Wolverines went 1-1 this past weekend against Ohio State. Won 3-2 on Friday night, lost 4-1 on Saturday. And this weekend, Michigan entertains Wisconsin in a critical series at Yost Ice Arena. Only 6 games remaining in the on the season, and this is the last time. I'm sorry, 8 games remaining on the season. This is the last time, though, that you guys get back-to-back home games, correct?
Yeah, we got big weekend here. Obviously, a chance to make up some games, and it should be a great atmosphere against Wisconsin.
And I totally misspoke because you guys have Notre Dame back-to-back on February 21st, 22nd, too. So 8 games remaining. Wisconsin this weekend at Michigan State, and then the neutral site game February 17th at Joe Louis Arena, Little Caesars Arena.
Yeah.
I do that all the time. I just have not gotten used to saying LCA yet. Then a home series against Notre Dame, and then you finish on the road at Minnesota. And so, Bill, you guys have 21 points. You're 7 behind Ohio State, or 7 behind number 2 in the Big Ten. You want to get to that top 2 spot if you can, get that bye. Obviously, for the pairwise rankings in terms of college hockey, you guys are 29th. As we talked about with Mel last week, you need to be like 13th to feel really good about your spots. You've got a lot of ground to make up, and that's why it's critically important for you guys to get 6 points out of this weekend.
Yeah, I think we totally got to make some ground up. There's no question about that. The standings are really tight, but we just have to focus on the 6 inches in front of our face in the game on Friday night. And every play matters. It's one shift at a time, one period at a time, one game at a time, and we like our group. The effort's there. We just got to make sure that we execute on Friday.
Well, as you said in the break, there's a fairly young Wisconsin team, but they're being led by Cole Caulfield, a Montreal Canadiens draft pick who has 17 goals in 26 games, and certainly, have you guys done this thing? This is something that Red used to do. Is if he has the number 1 line, he always tries to get them out there against another team's number 1 line. Or is that your strategy when you're looking at this matchup wise?
Yeah, that's definitely, you have to be aware of who you're playing against and who you're on the ice against. And Cole Caulfield's a dangerous player. They have a player, Linus Weisbach, who I coach in Tri-City in the USHL, is from Sweden. He's a draft pick of the Buffalo Sabres. He's a dangerous player, and I think they have a lot of chemistry playing together, and they're players that you have to take away their time and space. If you give them offensive players time and space, they can really hurt you. And not to get too much into it, but it's certainly a matchup that we want to be aware of, and being at home, we'll be able to control the line changes.
Yeah, that's obviously a big thing is to have that advantage. And when you guys look at it, this Wisconsin team, you guys have had pretty good success with in the past. This year you split with them. And what do you remember from that series back in, I think it was the last day of November, the first day of December? You lost 3-2 there and then came back and won 3-1.
Well, it's a great question, because I was actually in Western Canada.
Oh, so you remember nothing of it.
So I do remember hitting the reset button on my phone about 42 times to try and see what the score was. But I did catch Coach Shields actually dialed me and FaceTime me from the press boxes and watched some parts of the game. But obviously, any time we're playing in the Big Ten, it comes down to a call here or an error there, turning the puck over. It's so close. Anybody can beat anybody on any given night. But we have to play our game. We've got to come with our structure and I think be rock solid defensively. And then we've got to get traffic to the net. These goalies are too good at this level, and it probably sound like a broken record, but we got to penetrate and get up inside and get to the hard areas. And then we got to hit the net, and we got to finish. But we've certainly been getting lots of chances. But and then you got to have some patience. It's not going to happen, on one play. But we just got to stick through it, for a full 60 or 65, whatever it takes.
You brought up something interesting, and I don't know a lot of people that know this, and I always love to talk to Mel about just beyond like the hockey on the ice, some of the things that you guys face. And yeah, almost every away weekend, I think is every away weekend, one of you goes with Mel to the game, the other one goes off and recruits. And it's an odd dynamic, I would think.
Well, I think recruiting's so important, and you got to get out there and see the talent pool. You got to know your players and know who's coming in and what they're capable of and where we project them to be. A little bit different than probably a pro, model where you have a GM and a scouting staff, and then the coaches just completely coach. But that's an interesting dynamic where we take a lot of pride in getting out to see our guys and see. You always go into a rink, you're always learning something. It's just funny what people talk, and there's always gossip or a scoop or something, and you learn something every time you go into a rink, and good or bad. It's certainly an area that I enjoy, and getting out to see our guys and getting to know our players and the relationships that you have with advisors and coaches, and going and try and find the next player.
And you really like the class you have coming in next year.
Yeah, we're excited about it. I think they've signed some NLIs, so we can talk about that.
Yeah.
But Kent Johnson's tearing the cover off of the BC Hockey League. I think he's at 89 points now, and I think that's 29 above the next guy in line, and he's 17 years old, and I think he has a chance to be a really special player, one of the most dynamic players that probably come through here in quite some time. Owen Powers, a D-man that is playing Chicago in the USHL, and these guys are going to be first round picks. Not that it's all about being drafted or anything like that. They're not even eligible for this year's draft, but they're both top players, and we got Eric Portillo, who's a draft pick of Buffalo, and he's going to create some competition for Strauss and push Strauss, and Strauss is going to push him. So I think that's going to bode well. It's just to have those guys in net, with such depth. I think that's going to, really. I mean, that's a position. I don't care if you're playing baseball, if you don't have good pitching, or if in football, if you don't have a good quarterback, it makes you're playing catch up, so to speak.
Absolutely.
So, Jacob Truscott's doing really well over at the program. He's going to be a draft, and Philip Lapointe, Marty's son, is playing in trail in the BC Hockey League with Kent, and I think he's second in points per game there. And
did you guys get Lapointe just normal way, like, hey, he was interested in coming to Michigan, or was there some type of Detroit Red Wings connection to the Michigan program?
Well, I think there's a familiarity that Wise and I had with the dad. Obviously, we played against Marty, but I think just recruited him and got him in here, and I think Wise and I really liked him, and I think he's going to be a really good player for us.
All right, Billy, we're going to let you go in just two more questions. I want to ask you about NHL free agency, college hockey free agency, as we kind of refer to in college football in a second. But first, you're running in the Ann Arbor Marathon as one of the celebrities in a couple of weeks, March 22nd. And I appreciate you joining on and being one of our relay participants. Do you know if you're going to do the 6 or the 7 mile stretch yet?
Well, you know what? I'll do whatever they ask me to do. Hopefully the 6.
Hopefully the 6. And you're going to try to avoid running up the hill at Arboretum?
You know what? I've ran that a few times. I like that the weather will be nice and cool. It should be funner than the summer, but it's all for a great cause. I think, all the charities, and it'll be great to get out. I really appreciate you reaching out to me, and we'll see if I can't do the 6 mile.
So right now, I know, and we're going to hit all of our sponsors here, but you're an Orange Theory guy. You go to Orange Theory, 3 or 4 times a week?
Yeah, at least try to do that. Sometimes it's 5, but it's probably more about 4.
Okay. Yeah. So the one thing about Orange Theory is that when we, the class is divided in half, where we're running half and then we're lifting half, but we never get more than 2.5 to 3 miles in Orange Theory. So are you supplementing this to prepare for your 6 mile run with a run or 2 on the weekend?
I haven't started supplementing yet, but
I'm going to tell you probably should start.
It's funny because I run in the summer or whatever. Brian Brewster, our athletic trainer, runs like a rabbit, so he usually paces. But I've done that run quite a few times. But with the amount of running that we've been doing at Orange Theory, I feel pretty comfortable.
Okay, you're just gonna jump up 3 miles on that day.
Yeah.
Okay. Hey, that's a strategy. I don't know if it's the best strategy, but it is a strategy.
It might not be the best strategy, but you know what? I'll grind it out.
Okay. Okay. Well, you know what? You should if you go to AnnArborMarathon.com, you can learn more about the Ann Arbor Marathon Relay, where you can partner up with some of these people, and you're partnered up with April Franzoni Bertine, who, God, those kids. I think they have like 7 of those kids, but she is a national champion in field hockey. He's a national champion wrestler, 2-time national champion wrestler at Michigan. So I'm going to tell you, you're paired up with probably the ringer of the group. Like, she's awesome. She runs the Boston Marathon pretty consistently.
Well, I see her at Orange Theory, and yeah, we like our group. Let's just put it that way. I might be the weak link, but I'll bring my chain.
Yeah, I'm hoping that you guys end up with 2 slow people so that my group has a chance to beat you. So we'll see how it all shapes out. But Billy, appreciate that you are going to run into Probability Ann Arbor Marathon on March 22nd. And last thing for you, because you just asked me about, the Big Ten. We all heard about it on Friday that they wanted the NCAA to adopt legislation that allows players in 5 sports that don't get to do this right now: men's baseball, women's basketball, men's basketball, football, and hockey are the 5 sports where if you transfer, you have to sit out a year. And certainly the grad transfer is a way around that. But, in terms of if this legislation gets passed, and they're talking about at least a year away, maybe 2 years away, how will this change college hockey, do you think?
Well, it's interesting. Obviously I read the article that it's probably above my pay grade, but I liked reading it. The article and some of the comments by our athletic director, by Ward, and with some of these sports and just the landscape or dynamics of college hockey, I can speak to with players leaving early to the National Hockey League, and just the transfer portal and some of that things. It'll be interesting because you're going to have to start really scouting and being aware of your opponent or who could potentially transfer. But I think there's a lot of back channeling that's going on already. So it could be great. I think the big programs that are developing players for the National Hockey League like ours are, you're almost being, I don't want to say punished, but you're losing players. Like Quinn Hughes is playing in the National Hockey League right now. He'd be a junior here, and now we're trying to develop the next Cam York and bring him in, and we have players for a shorter window. And I'm not complaining, I'm just simply stating that's the facts of life for us. So that to be able to take a proven player that is a top player off a smaller program potentially, if they wanted to transfer, I think that that would only increase your roster.
So I understand it in football, especially because there is a gigantic divide between the haves and the have-nots in college football. And so if I'm a kid playing at Western Michigan and I'm Greg Jennings and I've established myself and I say, hey, you know what? I'm coming off my junior year. I've had 2 1,000-yard seasons, and I want to compete for a championship. I'm going to play in the NFL. The NFL knows who I am at this point, but I want to go compete for a Big Ten title or a national championship. So I look at an opportunity to jump to Michigan, jump to Ohio State, something like that. I get that. College hockey, the parity has been so strong the last couple of years. Does the same thing apply to someone? I mean, Quinnipiac is in the national championship game in the Final Four. Some of these programs, Yale is winning the national championship. Providence is winning the national championship. So is there a big enough divide between the have and the have-nots where someone like Michigan could go to some of these schools and not like you're going to be rating them, but someone at RPI says, hey, you know what? I'm a pretty established player. I'd like to go to Michigan. Or does he just stay at RPI because there's a lot more parity in college hockey?
Well, there is a lot of parity. I think one of the dynamics is that the average freshman age is older. So, it's not where you're coming for the most part out of being a senior, a true senior out of high school. So that age factor adds, a little bit of a dynamic to the situation. But, I think that would be up to the player. I think that, you certainly have players that want to transfer to a bigger school or closer to home or didn't have the opportunity, and all of a sudden 3 years later they're now a dominant player and they want to have that experience.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. I mean, I think there's a couple of programs where, let's face it, they're probably not going to win a national championship. I mean, if you go to Mercyhurst, you're probably not going to win a national championship. If you go to Merrimack or Bentley or Holy Cross, you're not going to win a national championship. And so if a player goes there and he puts up 35 goals in a season and says, you know what I'd like to do next year? I'd like to go play for Michigan or Penn State or Notre Dame or Boston College. There are going to be situations like that.
Well, it's, I don't want to speak to the intent or anything like that, but it seems like it would give the student athletes some more freedom or flexibility or options and to ensure that they're going to have a quality, experience.
All right, great stuff from Billy Muckalt. Good luck to you this weekend against Wisconsin.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
And good luck in a couple of weeks at the run.
Boy, I'm going to be coming after you, buddy.
Good stuff. Good stuff. We'll come back. A little Michigan, Ohio State basketball. This is on the Huddle on Sports Talk 1050. WTK Ticket.